In this lesson, we are going to discuss how you can use research to support your argument. And more specifically, we're going to look at writing paragraphs with research, what that would look like, and how you can structure your argument. So we'll go over some paragraph structure items. We'll spend a little bit of time talking about topic sentences. And then we'll talk about how to support your main idea with research. So how to introduce in-text citations effectively. And we'll talk a little bit about some tips for unity and coherence and how to avoid some common paragraph problems. So the previous information about paragraph organization talked about how paragraphs are about one main idea. Every paragraph needs a topic sentence that states the main idea, and it needs to have a controlling idea. So this needs to focus your point of view. A topic sentence should not be a question. It also should not be a citation. So in other words, your topic sentence needs to be your point of view or your claim in your own words. The rest of the paragraph is dedicated to presenting support points for your main idea. So you would have a supporting point, and then each support point would have its own evidence, usually in the form of some kind of reference to research, maybe a quotation or a paraphrase. And then you need to explain how that evidence is connected to your main idea. And then you need to conclude your paragraph with a concluding sentence. So this breaks down a little bit about what your step-by-step would look like for a research paragraph. So you make your claim in your topic sentence. Then you need to introduce your evidence. So you have your supporting idea, and then you have evidence to support that, usually in a paraphrase or a quote. And then you explain how that evidence is connected to your main point. And then within a body paragraph of an essay, you would link that evidence to your thesis. So you show how this evidence proves your thesis to be true. And then depending on how long your paragraph is going to be, you would repeat steps 2 through 5. Maybe 2 times if you're going to have maybe 3 points in total. And then you finish your paragraph with a concluding sentence. So this is an example of a paragraph, and it shows you what each of these sentences is doing within this paragraph. So this is a body paragraph from an essay, and the topic is about the gender wage gap. So the thesis for that essay is a gender-based wage gap persists in many societies around the world due to gender inequality in education, a lack of advancement opportunities for women, and a reinforcement of gender-based stereotypes. So this would be one of those body paragraphs. So you can see I've identified the topic sentence, and then after the topic sentence, the first support point is introduced. It is then followed by a piece of evidence with an in-text citation. The sentence that comes after that citation is explaining why that information is relevant to the main idea. Then, once that idea has been fully explained, I introduce another supporting point, and I do the same steps. I introduce the support point, I provide evidence with an in-text citation, I explain how that research is relevant to the main idea. Then I have a sentence that is connecting those supporting points to the overall thesis of the essay. And then finally, I conclude the paragraph with a concluding sentence. So every sentence in the paragraph has a purpose. There is no filler information in this, and I have not added any information that is not related to the main idea. Let's take a look at some examples of topic sentences. We will talk in more detail about thesis statements later, But for now, what is important to know is that your thesis statement acts like a roadmap for your essay, and it previews what the topics of your body paragraphs will be. So from this thesis statement, a regular exercise regime in midlife benefits people in their senior years by increasing their health span and decreasing risk of serious physical injuries. We can see the topic of the body paragraphs will be increasing health span and decreasing risk of serious physical injuries. So then when I go to write my body paragraphs, I can pull from my thesis statement those ideas to focus my topic sentence. So here I have an example of 2 topic sentences for the 2 body paragraphs. And you can see that each body paragraph focuses on one aspect of the thesis statement. So they are focused, they have a controlling idea, and now I know that the rest of my body paragraph will focus on just the ideas laid out in the topic sentence. Now it's a chance for you to try writing some of your own topic sentences. So I've given you some thesis statements, and I've highlighted the different topics for the body paragraphs. So you can practice writing a topic sentence for each of the body paragraphs for these proposed thesis statements. So in total, you should have 4 topic sentences, 2 for the first thesis statement and 2 for the second. You do not have to write the whole essay, of course. This is just some practice to help you get used to writing topic sentences. After the topic sentence, the rest of your paragraph is going to be mostly made up of supporting ideas for the topic of your paragraph. So you need to support that main idea. Usually this will be through maybe 2 to 3 support points to explain that idea. Depending on how much detail you need to give, you might need only 2. Usually you wouldn't need more than 3. So the first thing you have to do is you need to state the support point, and then you need to explain it. So as an example, I could have a topic sentence that says one reason that a gender-based pay gap persists might be due to differential treatment that boys and girls receive in schools. So I can see from this that I now need to provide support for that claim, for the differential treatment, and how that might lead to a gender-based pay gap. So my first supporting idea is about teacher bias and how teachers tend to treat boys and girls differently based on stereotypes. And so it depends on, or that reflects the kind of attention kids receive in school. So here I have some evidence in the form of research from a study that showed that when teaching subjects that are stereotypically deemed more masculine, teachers tend to overly assist female students, which undermines confidence. Then I need to explain how that evidence matters. Why is that important? How is that connected to my main idea? So some points I have here is that a teacher's behavior dictates which students will be rewarded and which will be patronized. This could impact confidence in their own skills and abilities. They'll feel they're not capable of doing something on their own, which may have lasting effects that dictates which careers they explore. So that's just one supporting idea. Then I would need to kind of organize this into some organized sentences to introduce the support idea, introduce the evidence, and explain why that evidence is important. How you introduce your evidence is important as well. So you cannot simply just add an in-text citation as a means of stating your point. So the research is not there to make your argument. The research is there to support your argument. So after you state what your supporting point is, then you can introduce your evidence. make sure you're using some kind of introductory phrase like according to, research has shown. You can use your narrative style citation followed by a reporting verb like the author with the year, notes, suggests, argues, etc. Then you give the information. If your introductory phrase is a complete sentence, you can then use a colon to introduce a quote if you're going to use a quote. You could also introduce your citation as a paraphrase using the introductory phrases above. And make sure that you're using appropriate punctuation. So here we can see some examples of what those in-text citations might look like. The first is a paraphrase. So we have the author's name and the year. We do not have a page number. But the second, we have a direct quote, so we do have a page number. So this is an example of an ineffective use of evidence. Today we are too self-centered. Most families no longer sit down to eat together, preferring instead to eat on the go while rushing to the next appointment. Everything is about what we want. This is not effective because there's no connection between the main idea, being too self-centered, and the evidence, eating together. There's no clear explanation of how those points are connected. This is also problematic because we see the use of we, which is informal language. So let's try to fix this. Today, Americans are too self-centered. Even families do not matter as much as they once did. Other people and activities take precedence. In fact, the evidence shows that most American families no longer eat together, preferring instead to eat on the go while rushing to the next appointment. Sit-down meals are a time to share and connect with others. However, that connection has become less valued as families begin to prize individual activities over shared time, promoting self-centeredness over group identity. So this is much more effective because there's a smooth transition from the main idea into what the supporting point is. The supporting point is explained. We can see how this research is important to the main idea. A couple of things I want to mention about tips for your writing is one is with coherence. So you need to make sure that your sentences are clearly related to your topic sentence and the controlling idea. But you also want to make sure that your sentences flow smoothly. So you might want to highlight the connections between information you've already mentioned and new information. And you make sure that you're not writing too many sentences in one paragraph. So a very long paragraph might need to be condensed, whereas a very short paragraph might need more development. Some tips for unifying a paragraph is to repeat key words, or if you don't want to repeat the same word, use synonyms or other restated ways of saying those important words, and do the same for phrases. Make sure you're being consistent in the point of view, your verb tense, and the number. So make sure that when it comes to grammar, that you're using consistent grammar throughout. And it's really helpful to use transition words and phrases to make connections. And you can use this to make connections between sentences and also between paragraphs. So transition words and phrases are very common, and this really helps guide your reader through your essay or your paragraphs. So these help to make logical connections. This slide is giving you some examples of some transition words and phrases that can be used. This is not an exhaustive list, but this is some that you might want to consider. These can be used when introducing a topic sentence. These can also be used within a paragraph to introduce a new supporting idea or to make connections between your supporting ideas or to elaborate. Finally, I want to mention 3 really common paragraph problems. The first is no topic sentence or not having a clear topic sentence. So you always want to make sure your topic sentence states the main idea and has a controlling idea to focus the paragraph. That then leads into more than one idea. So make sure your paragraph is only focusing on one main idea, and all of the sentences should support that main idea. If you have any sentences that start to go off topic or they're not supporting what the main focus of that paragraph is, then you need to remove it or perhaps move it to a different location. And a lack of flow or organization. So not using transitions really impacts the flow and organization of the paragraph. So keep in mind that these are some common paragraph problems that you want to avoid. So to summarize and to highlight some of the key takeaways from this lesson, always introduce your evidence and follow your evidence with an explanation of why it is relevant. Make connections to your topic sentence and thesis statement clear, and make sure in-text citations are formatted appropriately. Every time you introduce some form of research, you need to make sure that you are introducing it and including an in-text citation.